So I'll commend you to that. And then with respects to switching fields, man, it's something that I have done a lot. Um, and it's really interesting because as my awareness has developed and as I've become a smarter business person and more experienced, my criteria has evolved. However, um, if you know the same North Star still applies, and that is it's got to be something that captures your imagination. For me,
Mhm.
for other cats, I hear people say, "Hey, who cares if you like the thing? Just get good at it and just make money." I've
Mhm.
seen that work. I've seen people, succeed in that, but it's not person. I'm weird. Like it's really hard for me to like do the put in the necessary hours
Mhm.
that something it takes out of you unless like it just captures your imagination. And that's the phrase I like to use because it's like it's something that when you think about it, you just get excited thinking about like, oh, like yeah, and then you can also do this, you can do that, and you see yourself the creative rearrangement of what's already in your head. When
Mhm.
you find the right vehicle, you just start being able to like piece it all together and following that journey is what reveals you to opportunities that, you didn't even know were there for you.
Mhm.
And so for as much, mathematical criteria as I've developed these days, like for instance, just to make it concrete, like, my last project, Harlem Capital, we raised $40 million and it was this big venture fund. And, that has the real opportunity to um, drive wealth for ourselves, but also for the people that we invest in. It's just a really high impact project. So after doing something like that, I'm just a much I'm really a fervent gatekeeper of the bandwidth my bandwidth and like what I lock into next, right? But because I know like man, building out like, I have equity apparel, um building that out like limited impact and building an apparel concept. I
Mhm.
do it because it's a passion project. I'm doing these, which mathematically would probably be a pretty big devaluation of my time, let's say monetarily.
Mhm.
However, I get the chance to, engage with 100, 200 people one on one, which has its own ROI.
Yeah.
Um, but ultimately, you know, I know now that when I anchor myself on another project, I wanted to have that kind of impact, right? And so as I've gone on, I've layered on additional criteria. Like at first, I just needed it to make me money. That's why I did the dry cleaner. And then I wanted it to have some impact. So then I did Co-Found Harlem. But then impact wasn't enough because Co-Found Harlem was this not-for-profit incubator. It wasn't really making me any cash, and I was having a hard time getting by.
Mhm.
So then I took the impact piece and combined it with the cash piece, and then we came with Harlem Capital, and then it just be so now my criteria for when I do switch lanes has developed, but I've tried switching lanes into something that someone hit me up and was like, "Yo, this thing's gonna make a lot of money," and I look at it and it's just like,
No.
if it's just that, bro, like it's just hard. Some people are just motivated by that, but it's got to be something where I'm just like, it just gets me going. So relating it to your you know position, there's got to be things in your life that really you know capture your imagination and get you going, get you ideating. When you talk to your boys about it, you're just like, yeah, like
Yeah. You,
that, that whatever it is, you must have something in your head because you're smiling. Like that is how I personally have approached it. I'm not saying that's the only way. I'm just saying that's been my way.
mhm.
And sometimes, here's the scary thing about it, right? Sometimes those things that capture our imagination
Mhm.
have no clear way that it's going to benefit us in the short term. And that's what makes it scary sometimes. Like
Yeah.
it'd be something if like it'd be one thing if like we were pumped about being a fucking lawyer, right? But like more often than not, the things that get people excited are things that are different. They're fresh, and that's what's the exciting part about it,
Yeah.
right? And I've watched how in my career, man, the things that have made no fucking sense, like co-found Harlem, which was like I was doing this incubator and people were staying in it and I was paying for it and I wasn't charging anything, but then they were staying in Harlem afterwards and building a community and people were like, yo, that's awesome, but how do you get paid? Like it just made no rational sense.
Mhm.
I pretty much went broke funding that thing for years. And I didn't know how it was going to make me any cash, but it's funny how that was really the main building block of all the blessings that I have today.
Yeah.
So in many respects, it's the projects that are just the wildest
Mhm.
projects that like get people right here,
Yeah.
that build movement and blah, blah, blah. Those are the ones that build narrative. So in your present stage, I would be optimizing for building narrative more than optimizing for dollars in the short term. Because a lot of the people that like my peers, whom while I was building this legacy project, they were optimizing for, yo, I got a 50K job, 50K year job, and I'm gonna save $7,000 a year. Like, all right, cool. I wasn't making that money and I was going through hell,
Yeah.
but now let's just say, when I do a keynote, I can make 15 grand in an hour.
Yeah.
And because my experience, my perspective is so unique as a result of doing something different for so long,
Mhm.
that the market is willing to reward that.
Oh,
Whereas the people who went and did the low hanging fruit thing and did what was easiest, now their time has a fixed dollar amount that it's prescribed to, that
mhm.
unless they take care to build a different viewpoint or perspective or skill, they're locked.
I see. Yeah.
They're locked there.
Yeah.
So your value becomes more infinite when you do shit that's just different.
Yeah. Everybody
So
does
now,
the same thing.
yeah. So now I'll ask you, like, exactly. Everyone's gonna go and do the same shit because it's less scary, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's less scary. It's a fixed path. But are there things in your life? I'm asking you now. Are there things in your life that there must be things in your life, right? I see you like some excitement. What are some of those things?
This definitely this Africa thing. I'm all about ownership. Um, I personally, as a just a man, and the way my parents raised me, I don't like owing people money, and I think that's
Mhm.
what's holding like not even just like the African American community, but just people from the continent, the African diaspora, is holding us back because we're renting everything that we do. We might have a small business, but we're not passing it on to our kids. And I think it goes to that saying, you can give a man a fish and he might eat for a day, or you can teach a man how to fish. And I think when you look at the whole continent of Africa, it's like people want to be able to fish on their own. They don't want, a handout. They don't want help. They want some instruction, maybe some guidance. And I think, having been blessed to be raised here, having gotten education, it's like I can go back and I can say, yeah, this is how you start a business. This is how you build a real estate portfolio. And there is really no cap on the market because it's like they make money. Like it's fake money at this day. Like FICO money is not real. It's not tangible. So you can create as much wealth as you want. And I think
Mhm.
like I could go on and on for like it's very I'm passionate about this subject. I think it's um,
Mm.
in terms of I see so many avenues of what I want to do. I think what I struggle with now is, and it's kind of sad to say, but it's like, am I willing to work as hard as will be needed in order to achieve this? And that's the
Mm.
question I've been kind of struggling the past 3 years
Mm.
because it's like I don't know how to describe it. Like I graduated college, and that was my purpose for so long. Just and especially as an immigrant, education is the only thing that matters. You got to get a
Mhm.
degree. You got to get a degree. So there's no choice of like failing on that. And so once I
Mhm.
graduated, I was like, "Yo, what's my purpose?" And that kind of really kind of shook me to my core because I didn't really know. And
Mm.
so
Mm.
now that I do think that the African venture, and when I say venture, it'd be like not only real estate, but I want to do like network infrastructure. So with 5G coming online, that's going to change the game. And so, especially with Facebook, they just invested like about $1 billion in creating a
Mhm.
network
Mhm.
pipe
So
to increase speed, and then Starlink with Tesla and Elon Musk. So I think
mhm.
there's just a lot of avenues you can go.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the key for that is really gonna be breaking it down into more bite-sized
Mm,
um things that you can tackle, because obviously Africa, people refer to it like a country, obviously it's a continent, and
for
there's, it's just like massive, massive scale
mm,
of problems and thus solutions. So, um, 100%. That something like that is like very legacy driven. It's also very brand defining, right?
mm,
And so like just by you starting with, um, hey, what's up? This is Amon, and just like, on the phone, just sharing your perspective and to get in the conversation as
mm,
like, yo, this cat is interesting. Like, wow, this is his story. There's going to be a lot of Africans living in America
mm,
that will resonate with you. There are people that, for as resonant as I've been, there are just going to be people that I can't reach because I just didn't have their background, and they're not going to resonate with me as much as they would you.
mm,
Right. And so you sharing those experiences of like coming here and what that was like, and the pressure for education, and how once you graduated, you didn't know what you were about kind of afterwards, and like that scary thing.
yeah.
There will be a lot of people that will come out of the woodwork and be like, yo, I 100% like understand that build, like, and so then you start building audience, and that's what we call brand equity. People start associating you with a thing,
Mm,
and that thing is like this whole experience of, being an African immigrant in the States and having this love for Africa and
yeah.
this passion and wanting to get involved somehow, let's say. And
Mm,
you don't even have to have that concretely defined, which people will also be able to resonate with. It's not like you have to come out the woodwork and say, this is exactly what I'm doing. Da, 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 da. It's more like starting to lay that infrastructure, that groundwork of like, yo, this is kind of what along the lines of what I'm thinking. This is how, this is how I'm approaching things, whatever. And you'll see the most worthwhile things have the longest kind of like groundwork to be laid,
mm,
right? And if I look at my own career, like, man, I, it took me years really to dial in kind of what I've been about, and it just took me sharing a little bit about myself and just refining and just over and people getting more context, and over the years it just starts turning into this thing where a lot of people know and have context and are riding and you have your mission fine-tuned and people are dialed in,
mm,
and when you finally create that thing that you want to lock in for,
mm,
people are going to rock with you on it. So you can actually relieve yourself of the pressure of having to have it figured out, and more so just start entering their conversation and just start sharing who you are, what you're about, some of the things you're confused about, some of the things that, you wrestle with, and kind of just humanizing that path will yield wonders. And it's not going to make you a dollar right now. It won't make
yeah.
you any money right now.
Mm,
But what it will do is, precisely because it doesn't make money, people don't like to do it. They prefer instead to sell something quick because it makes money now. So
yeah.
those people that cash in money now, you know, will, I guess, in the short term be ahead.
Mm,
But the people who build brand vastly surpass
yeah.
anything, any amount of courses and shit like that people are going to be able to sell.
Yeah.
And your key will be holding yourself down with a main thing in the meanwhile.
Mhm. Yeah, and
um
I have that now because I do consulting, so it's the schedule works
mhm,
for me. Um,
mhm, mhm,
it kind of sucks not having like the same amenities. You could be making 50 grand with healthcare and stuff like that. It'd be nice, but it's
mhm,
also nice to know that I earned this dollar and I don't owe anybody,
mhm.
this money. Like I'm not. I guess what I'm earning is what I'm working for.
Yeah. And that core gig will develop and change over time. You might then get an employment offer that you really like at a company whose values you empathize with and whatever. But what I want for you is, I want you to take care to build that, your story and your brand and all this other stuff. I want that to be the through line as you go through different ventures, because you know what I wouldn't want you to do is fall into the trap of, you know, you just stay quiet, you kind of stack your bread, you work a few gigs here and there, and then finally you're ready to go after it, this big legacy project. You figured out what you want to do, you got the partners to do it, but
Mm-hmm.
then let's say that's years later, 5 years later, but then you let's say you buy the property, next year you buy another one, another 2 years, and it's kind of all starting to come together. You will thank yourself if that whole time you had been building this context, audience, and it's just going to augment and make your efforts multidimensional,
Mm-hmm.
because now anything you touch, people already know and fuck with you, and they know what you're about,
Yeah, your brand's
and
already.
they boom. And
Yeah.
then when you're in position, it's gonna actually make you a lot more. It's gonna make you a much stronger candidate, in because you're not the only one with this goal, right? And so
Yeah.
there's gonna be collectives forming,
Mm-hmm.
right? And people are gonna be recruiting partners to tackle big projects.
Yeah.
And so just you already have your inherent value just given your education and your professional expertise. And then
Mm-hmm.
if you can layer into that, this guy has built-in reach, you become a very valuable partner.
Yeah.
And then it allows you to negotiate for better economics in big deals. Like when I get brought into, my TV deal, for instance, I wasn't charging like a regular host who was just like for hire guy, a guy who's just for hire. Like,
Yeah.
they knew I had expertise. They knew I was going to be able to help produce the show, help write the show, help use my connections, and help promote the show.
Mm-hmm.
So just by being like super fucking valuable, I was able to command a pretty big price point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing that play out everywhere. Like, I don't just get paid to speak when I get hired to speak. They also know that I'm going to help promote the event. And
Yeah.
so my agent is able to work. So you'll see how it'll actually augment your economics as well,
Mm-hmm.
where, you'll start being able to bring in, if you're making, let's say 30K or 50K in your core job, you'll start being able to, over time, after let's say a year or two of building brand, you'll start being able to bring home an extra 10, 15, 20, 25K a year.
Mm-hmm.
And all that income is pretty high net margin. You got almost no expense related to it, almost like consulting.
Yeah.
Um, except with speaking and stuff like that, it's way less time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Commitment, right?
Yeah.
Because then you'll start being invited, like, yo, listen, we're doing this Tastemakers of Africa thing. We need a panelist that, that comes from Eritrea, or we need a panelist that, people resonate with and whatever. Would you
Mm-hmm.
like to, join this panel? We don't have a huge budget, probably $2,500, and we cover your flight and travel. Are you interested? Fuck yeah. You
Yeah.
go, you record it, you
Mm-hmm.
share that. Oh shit. You know, this guy does stuff like that. Then you start being invited to more things. Then,
Mm-hmm.
Forbes Africa is looking at profile up and coming people, you know,
Yeah.
that are looking, rising stars of African descent. They
Mm-hmm.
might have come across a piece of your content. They put you on that list. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, the 100,000 people who saw that, 10% of them go and
Right.
check you out.
Yeah.
And then it becomes this virtuous cycle that
Mm-hmm.
you have no chance at capturing if you're not in the conversation at all.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess in terms of like creating this brand, is it more so like you're creating, like you create a like social media page, you're trying to do outreach, or is it just so like the idea that I had was, and it kind of works out because I'm trying to build a skill set, but I want to create a website. And essentially this website, I actually have it written out here. It would be, so you have 57 pages. Essentially, it's 54 of them are going to be for each country in the continent, and it talks about
Mhm,
what are the industries that currently rock, like statistics, population, age, and stuff like that.
mhm,
And then it's
mhm,
also like future projects. So you do like projections. And luckily, I studied engineering, so I've had some statistics, and that's kind of what I study on the side. And so I could be able to create these models, which
mm,
one gives me the skill set, but two kind of allows me to kind of dig a little bit deeper into my passion.
mhm. I love that. I mean, it's a big load in
Mm,
terms of like making 57 pages. But if that's something that, like, I love that kind of stuff, is exactly what I'm talking about. I
mm,
love it. It's a finite kind of small scale project. It's a
yeah.
passion project. It still has that overarching, goal tied to it. It's very relevant.
Mhm.
and you're giving yourself a sizable chunk to bite off
Yeah.
and put out there. And this is the kind of thing that you can share. You can also turn it into a content engine because you can share a different stat about a different country in Africa every day.
Mhm.
You can say, "Hey, guys, this project, I would love for you guys to check it out." And every day you might talk about a different country at depth, or have guests on an IG live from that country
Mhm.
that are American, live in America or whatever the point is. But I love that, man, a lot because it's gonna be the underpinning. It's gonna take you from some guy who's just talking about it to like, hey, I did this thing,
Mhm.
and you just continue building the resource out over time, and it's really gonna anchor your effort. And I think it's a great look.
I guess the other thing is, how do you? Well, two questions. First, how have you dealt with doubt? About maybe like where you like you're saying living day to day, it doesn't seem like you're doing anything, but when you expand on it, it's like you've done a
Mhm,
lot. But at the same
mhm,
time, it's like I'm not. You like even if you plan where you're going to be in 3 years, you may not
mhm,
be there. And so, how do you kind of
for
get
sure.
that doubt of of what you're doing consistently? And then two, how do you overcome? Like I'm a very lethargic person just by nature. Like I like to chill. I can't like help myself. I have to force myself to work out because like I want to look good, I want to feel good, and it's responsible because it's going to save me money down the line. But I
Mhm,
can't always tell myself when it's like time to put in work.
mhm.
Like I'm not afraid of working hard, but I just like by nature I just take the easiest route. So how do you build that consistency?
I love it, man. It's a good look. It's a good observation. You have that about yourself, and you have that self awareness. I think, honestly, I think that there's a misconception that you got to be super fucking hype to get shit done. I've seen very chill people crush it. I think you just have to find the parameters by which you succeed. Like for me, I just have a different operating style. And over the years, I've catered more to that style and have been okay with it. And so, if it's getting in the way of you being able to get stuff done, that's when it becomes an issue. But if you're just like naturally a chiller person,
Hmm.
then me personally, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just like weaving that in as part of your narrative, and so forth. And as far as like the doubt, man, for me, the the prospect of staying where I was scarier than any doubt. I was like, fuck, man. Like, yeah, I doubt. I still doubt. Honestly, it's not something that I've gotten rid of. I still get scared and get butterflies when I'm getting ready to do something big.
Hmm.
But I'm like, bruh, I gotta take a swing at it because if I don't, worst case is I stay here.
Hmm.
And like, for as decent as that is at the moment, that's not what I'm looking to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that being driven by that really overcame that doubt, and also just, like, pussyfooting it, like, just, like, doing a little bit at a time, and, like, your confidence grows in stages and steps. So, like, just that's why I really like the idea of this website for you, right? Because it's a finite, small scale project you can tackle right now.
Hmm.
That you'll see that will build your confidence, and as you put one video out and the next one and the next one, all those little micro steps build your confidence.
Hmm.
And I'm, much more confident now than I was when I started because I've had these little wins and losses over time. You zoom out
Hmm.
and, you just become more confident of a person. So that's what I would say, man. And, again, on the lethargic thing, you know, I don't know. I'm a naturally high energy person, so I've never had it, but
Yeah.
I just am tired of hearing that, like, that's the only persona that can win. It's not true.
Yeah.
It's really not true.
It, it's
And as your confidence grows, you can hone your delivery within your own style, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, it's like I've kind of spent the past just couple years trying to learn about who I am and what I'm willing to endure, I guess. And it's less so like, I guess lethargic might not be the right word. Before it was just like really bad habits, I guess. And habits are built on the things that you do every day. And so I think
Mhm.
When I was younger, I allowed myself a lot of leeway, and just because it's, I am a naturally like high energy person. Like in a room, I can talk to anybody. Like it's just like who I am. But at the same time, it's like when I'm by myself and when I got to put in work by myself, nobody's
Yeah,
watching.
that's
Like,
by the way, that's natural.
mm,
Like, humans are lazy. That's natural. Like, think about this, right? Like, when you're a kid and you gotta do your homework, you're just like, "I'm fucking tired." And then if your boys hit you up like, "Yo, let's go outside." You got
yeah,
all the fucking bursts of energy in the world. So
mhm,
that energy is always laying dormant. And, when it comes pay close attention to when your body wants you to chill out,
mhm,
right? And get lazy about something, because that's actually an indication of, you know, a skill or an act that you don't yet have, like, core competencies around, and it's hard to do. So your body will
try to,
conservation of energy, your body will shut it down.
yeah,
Versus if it's like a hot chick hits you up like, "Hey, come through," you're fucking in there, you
yeah,
know?
real quick.
Because, like, that's just in us. So pay attention to it and start trying to chip away at it bit by bit, you know?
Mhm,
So hey, I gotta go to this next session, but
of
I
course.
really enjoyed this, man, and I really look forward to seeing you execute on that. Take your time with it. Good things take time, man.
Yeah, for sure.
But you keep me posted as you do it. And this email that I sent to use my scheduling,
Mhm.
that's my personal email. So I want you to hit me. I don't want to make it transactional, so you can hit me anytime on it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. John, I just want to say, be safe out there, man. I know tough
Thank you,
times
man.
right now. And thank you for this call. I really appreciate that
Thank
advice.
you, man. I enjoyed it. Be
Yeah,
well.
thank you. See you.